Hi everyone, my name is Gaurav Bakshi and I welcome you to the fifth edition of Strat-Chat, where we bring you up close and personal with leading HR leaders and talk about some of their incredible journeys and how they are shaping up the world of business. Today is perhaps a very special day for me as I have none other than Mr. Ashish Anand join us for conversation today. Known for his unique style and defining perspectives, Ashish has had some remarkable contributions to leading organizations like Piaggio, Dabur, Religare, and now SAR Group, one of the fastest growing groups in the country where he's serving as the group CHRO. So, welcome, Ashish. A big thank you for taking out the time for our community today. And before I start, I really also wish to thank you for our association of, for over 17 years now, where I've had the privilege to know you not only as a senior, a boss, a mentor, and a friend. And, what I can just say is that life wouldn't have been the same without you. So thank you so much for, taking out the time today.
Thanks, Gaurav. Pleasure for talking to you, and you have been very kind in your words. Thank you very much.
All right. So, without, wasting too much time on our own personal exchanges, I would rather start getting your perspectives, for our community now. And one of my first questions to you, Ashish, is that, I've seen you as one of the most practical HR leaders around and fairly business oriented than one would usually come across. Uh, and I'm sure a lot of us can learn from you in terms of how do you really immerse yourself with the business so much. So, first question is really, what are some of your guiding mantras and your principles, and how have you really been over all these years been able to establish yourself as a really a business HR leader?
Look, I think this question has directly, indirectly been asked by many people with while working, not working in the forums within the HR community. But look, Gaurav, there is a very simple, basic principle in this. And this I realized it long back when I was doing my graduation and my MBA way back in '95, between '95 and 2000, and then the early days of my career. At the end of the day, all companies have a commercial interest, and to achieve the commercial interest, every function gets created. So in isolation, any function has no meaning. Any of the function, be it supply chain, finance, sales, marketing, tech, etc., etc., etc. Everyone. So all of them are basically weaving a thread of a commercial interest of organization. Be it in, and you can name these commercial interest into various into various metaphors. Could be a shareholder value creation. Could be environmental safe. New norm is ESG. Solving mass problems, etc. But at the end of the day, all organizations are commercially driven. So any function which you belong to, or you're part of it, if you are able to understand that this also this has to weave its story to the commercial interest, while balancing both the needs, both sides of the need, which is the employee and specifically in the HR function. In the with the people who work there and people who are employing. I think it's a very simple. It's just a mindset. I don't know anything. I have not applied any theory around it, but it's a simple mindset. A lot also goes by one experiences in life while growing up in early days of your life. I think it's just simple that.
Right. So you're saying that this realization has been with you even before you really started your journey.
Because I always look at things with a purpose. Why do things happen? Okay, in 1942, Mahatma Gandhi had a Quit India movement. There's a purpose that one man without any cloth could galvanize crores of people of the country to come on the street. So
Right.
when you work in a company, there is a purpose for you to work in a company. There are only two purposes in the company when you work in an organization. Is that your first principle is that it's a contractual obligation between employee and employer. That's the first principle.
Right.
In the first principle is that you give labor and for that you get paid. For doing that labor, you have to do certain jobs and certain responsibility. That responsibility finally, if you weave everything around it, is to the end outcome of the company. an end outcome of the company is maximizing profit, maximizing sales, shareholder return, ESG, whatever you can. If you just keep this simple principle, nothing is difficult.
Correct. And this is what I like the most about you. You don't shy away from really saying, "Bhaiya, yahi hai," and this is why we all exist. Because a lot of times we hear so much gibberish around how all our purpose and focus is all dissuaded into various directions. But I think brass tacks is
But
where it
this,
is.
but
So
no, but no, but this there is a deep purpose in it. The deep purpose in
right,
it is to make organization prosper, flourish, and beat the market.
absolutely
In doing that, your function exists, and whatever you do in your function has to do that.
correct.
So it's business. So HR is business. Business is HR.
Valid perspective, sir. So my next question is actually maybe an extension of the first question, but we talked about business and profit and possibly performance, and a lot of organizations have different ways in which they would chase some of these objectives, right from possibly driving double-digit growth to expanding customer base, getting into newer product segments, new markets, so on and so forth. And obviously this cannot happen without an active role that HR can play and catalyze. So in your experience, Ashish, how have you led some of the organizations on the paths they've chosen to be on? Maybe 3 or 4 big ways in which HR contributes to aligning people on this path.
So my personal experience, so Gaurav is, as you also know, my personal experience has always been in, and where the companies I chose to work or they chose to employ me both ways, has been a company which has always looked at things little non-traditional way. Okay, right from my first company was like a startup in India. Second was a rubber, which was a 100-year-old company, but going through a transformation from a X, from starting from a C to Z. They wanted to reach in a very short period of time. Then moved to financial services, which was building the multiple platforms in financial services. And now I work with a company which is in diversified businesses with a CAGR growth of 47% over a decade. So I think you have to understand where you land up, and it's also by choice where you land up. I choose to land up in a places where these kind of things happen. So so one of the key, and that's what I said, is that you have to just look at where you land up. And it also matters a lot that where you land up and which organization you work with. In a company which is an aspiration to grow multiple folds in a very short period of time, we'll have very different ethos and working philosophy. Then a company which is a billion and a multi-country, and because that throws a very different complexity, challenges to operate. So you have to look at things in a perspective. So there is no one size fits all approach, or spray and pray on work. So your question was, what are the three, four things? I think as long as you're able to create through your various processes, if you're able to align the purpose of the stakeholders. And when I say stakeholders, all kind of stakeholders. The moment you purpose. So let me give you an example. Is that we want to become if a company wants to create a particular platform in 3 years of a time, with the least possible manner. Now, if there are 100 people as a startup team, and you have been part of one of the startup team, all 100 people speak the same language. I think the first principle of everything is purpose alignment. The day you start building purpose alignment, and walk the talk. If in mind is something else, and if the execution is something else, you can't execute. So whatever is there in your mind has to get executed. Right or wrong, you can always figure out if something doesn't work. And if you look for a 100% perfect solution, you won't reach anywhere. Is personally in my 20 years, my personal experience has been. I think this is this very basic principle. If you look at, one is that the purpose should be known to everyone. Okay. Second is the walk the talk. Whatever you communicate to folks, you must implement by yourself first. You do something else and you want someone else to do something else, it's not going to work at all. If
Correct.
you want to run a
Absolutely.
frugal company with a very cost focused organization. Now, if the chief executive on a tour drives in a Mercedes and the others are asked to take an Uber and Ola, it's not going to work.
Sure.
Okay.
I get your
uh,
point.
so
Yeah.
and there are multiple examples. So if we do some of these basic, and then the last thing which is very very important is that the customer experience. Now customer experience has two elements to it: the internal customer, which is your employee. How do you treat them? Okay. And on a genuine basis, when the guy walks into every morning in the office, how he or she feels while coming to office is the key important point. Do you feel that you feel
Right.
welcomed in the organization, your surrounding, your colleagues? And finally, at the end of the day, you in a 9 hours of work on 20 years of my experience, you only end up working 5-6 hours, 3-4 hours.
Right.
You end up socializing, you talking to people, etc. So how you feel around
Right.
is that what makes you feel in that, and that doesn't only come with a pay. I think that if you are able to build that kind of an organization, then the same gets transferred into customer side. I know distributor partners, etc. I think that's a
Sure.
basic principle. Rest everything on the what kind of a performance management you want to run, whether you want a highest pay master, you want
Right.
a very heavy equity, you have best technology available. I think these things are sacrosanct for all company. You can buy the same technology, you can get the
Hmm.
same consultant to design your stock option plan, you can do same
Right.
66th to 75th percentile or 100th percentile pay positioning, you can get the same
Correct.
trainer to train your people. But at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, when the rubber hits the road, is the reality. On a daily basis, what you feel,
Absolutely.
if you're able to just walk the talk, I think you win the game.
Yeah. And I really like what you're saying, Ashish, because a lot of times you get so enamored with HR processes and all the examples you gave around technology and performance management and training. And, sometimes I feel that, as HR professionals, we get a limited, perspective of what and how we can really drive it. But I think the brass tacks really remains in terms of uh, the basics of
So I was
creating that
talking to
alignment
somebody.
of
I was
purpose.
I was talking to someone else very recently, and I said that there are two principles if we apply, and it's a very
Right.
simple principle, and this is how I would like to be treated. If you get somebody with grace, and if you let somebody go with the grace,
Absolutely.
to grace journey is what you have to manage. That's it.
100%. 100%. Well, very, very, I think, simple and insightful input. Um, Also, Ashish, I mean, I want to just change gears now, and there's a lot of conversation happening around the future of HR and HR transformation and what's going to be 20 years hence, and AI and ML and robotics, and there is a lot of conversation happening these days on those areas, and you know, I especially wanted to ask you this question because I know you're someone who has a forward-looking approach, but you're always grounded in the roots and the core of the business. I wanted to know your view on it, and according to you, what are the 2-3 things that you really think you would want to see in the future from an HR standpoint, or adopt? What are the first 2-3 adoptions you would want to make?
I will break my answer into two parts. First of all, this change of artificial intelligence, machine learning, or some of the aspects are overrated. First of all, and I'll tell you why it is overrated. And I'm going back to my principle of again when we started my career and the institute days. The first one of the
Right,
principles which we were told that this function used to be known as a personal department, which used to do file management, leave attendance, payroll, etc., all kind of thing. IR was very big in India at that point in time. Now we have become a HR business partner. Now look,
right,
if you look at the transition of any function, and not only the HR as a function, but if you look at any function today, the way look at the way how the sales and distribution is being managed in the with intuitive technology. Look at the way the consumer influencing or the marketing happens with intuitive technology or
right,
intuitive marketing. Now, there is nothing different in the HR function which is happening. I don't see much hoopla of saying that how the whole influencer marketing and a 360-degree marketing angle has changed. The Philip Kotler 5P model may be not relevant. I'm not the best person to comment. But then look at the way the whole marketing is. So what is so great about this thing? So, so the world has moved from a a singular data spreadsheet to basically looking at intuitive technology. That's what the artificial intelligence and machine learning is. What intuitive technology, it just cuts down your lot of riff-raff work and say that this is what you can do. So
sure.
The space. It's happening in our life on a daily consumer app. It's happening in your banking transaction. It's happening in everything. So in the function is anyway going to happen. So it's nothing.
Correct.
Nothing out of the world which is happening. So you are just going in the sync with the technological revolution which is happening in the world.
Right.
So I mean, see, that's what Gaurav I said is if we keep life simple, life is very simple. Today we have an app where today you just put a query and you get all your answers that with it. Your leave balance, etc. Chatbot kind of a thing. Now that's, you can say that it's an intuitive technology, and that's artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive technology, or whatever you can call it. But at the end of the day, just solving your problem. Now, if you just replicate this is available in every consumer segment.
Correct.
An experience of a person.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, if you ask me what are 2-3 things, everything you got to do it. I mean, everything you got to do it. I mean, your performance management will be on the go. Your all query management is anyway on the go at any point in time. Your relationship between the boss and subordinate will become a little more virtual and intuitive over a period of time. Anyway, it has become intuitive, but it will accelerate the intuitiveness of boss and subordinate relationship. So I don't know whether I confused you with my answer or I give you any
I get what you're
answer.
saying. You're saying the journey really remains the same, and I think evolution is a natural process which is happening everywhere, and therefore it's bound to happen in HR, and there's no big deal about creating a hoopla around it. So I get what you're saying.
There's no big deal.
Fairly in sync with that. Yeah.
So it will happen. See, every process will see, today the world is changing. What is the benefit of technology? And I'm little techie geek in terms of understanding what's happening. So what is happening in the technology? With the new coding and if you look at the world of 60s to 80s, what the world of general management, all the people with the general management skills were the top of the world. Okay.
Right.
Today, if you look at, and prior to that, it was the world of specialists and technocrats. Today, if you look at the West world today, if you look at any of the startup ecosystem or the large format organizations, today all technocrats and the specialist skills people are the most valued.
Right.
And they are the people who are creating difference in everything they're doing.
Right.
Not people like we are process carrier in that, we are parasites in that whole process. We are not doing anything different in that world. So I think people just make little more out of it. As the consumer evolution happens, things will change.
Right.
I haven't seen an example where the pyramid would have been reversed, where the HR process would have changed and the consumer evolution would have happened. So whatever you're seeing today in the HR space is basically replication of the consumer evolution.
Right. Fair enough. Thank you. So another next question, Ashish, that I have for you really is that, a lot of times HR really struggles to, demonstrate contribution to the business goals. And, there is, general perception that, okay, what are these guys doing and how are they really contributing to the business? And, in your experience, what are maybe 1 or 2 ways in which you think HR can not only significantly contribute, but let that value be known?
Okay, I have Gaurav. So in my 20 years with experience, I have never experienced, first of all. So
right.
And and the answer lies into the first question. The first question
Sure.
you asked, that the business understanding of it. There is, see, people spend so much of time in the HR function, spending about time at the what, how the process should be followed, process should be written, etc., policy, procedure. These are all five things. But do you spend
Right.
equal amount of time understanding consumer buying behavior?
Hmm.
Okay. If you work in a tech company, do you know how the tech coding happens? Have you ever taken a pain to understand what coding means? If
Right.
you're in the manufacturing sector, do you know what's the casting tool can do? So if
Sure.
you're in a sales and distribution organization, have you spent X amount of time, not by doing a market visit? This market visit is also a big farce, that I'm going and doing a market visit, going to these five shops.
Hmm.
Do you really
Hmm.
understand how the consumer buying behavior happening? And I go back always to the consumers who buys your product, who pays you for your salary. If you know that process well,
Hmm.
okay, you will
Sure.
be able to add tremendous value in your business.
So you're saying
Otherwise,
really knowing the business very well is where the answer lies, really.
where the answer lies, there is nothing else. And even if you get into the boardroom or anything, if a CHR or anyone is asked for a view, if you are given an answer which is very truthful, and related to the business, not because there is I know this subject, etc. And the
Hmm.
reason people get called into the boardroom or to the executive committee meeting, etc., because the people assume that you would know your subject well. So that's why you're sitting on
Hmm.
the table. So knowing your subject
Right.
well is anyway given. So what's so great about it? So you have to know, that's why you get hired, you get paid, etc. But
Hmm.
what's the alpha male or alpha female category you are bringing in? So that alpha
Right.
is what you have to look for, and that alpha lies in
Absolutely.
business.
100%. Any
So,
Ashish, I mean, sorry.
so anyone who says that HR is not valued or understood or things like that, I think they should ask that self introspect, whether have they done enough before asking this question.
Hmm. Sure. The next question, Ashish, I'm just going back a little. You talked about the kind of organizations you work with or continue to work with, or the way you have chosen your organizations, if I can say. And there is an underlying theme around all these organizations of them being high decibel, fast growth oriented Indian organizations. Uh, any one or two tips, I mean, from that perspective, that uh, in terms of being able to bring the Indian organizations into the maturity of possibly what an MNC would be operating on as far as the HR architecture is concerned. So how do you, any views on that piece that, uh,
Yeah, so I so look, you have to look at it, things in the context. If you look at the today Indian corporate history today, it's largely a 20-25 years of a history post liberalization. 91, the liberalization happened. Prior to that, it was a regulated business models. And if you look at the large format companies which currently, other than the high tech companies which would have come in last 10-15 years, if you look at
right,
the top Fortune 500, which is non-tech led companies. Now, all of them have a history of 50 to 70 years or maybe 100 years. Now, they have taken that many number of years to come to that stage. And just to give you an example, now there are companies which is great companies within the India also. They have gone acquired companies overseas. They have multiple countries presence. Their method of doing businesses are very different. So I think you have to naturally allow time to come to get to that spot. I think the little impatience of saying that why are we not as perceived as good as MNCs, because a maturity only comes, age only comes with a 60 year. It doesn't come with a 25-30 years. So if you're a
right.
25-30-year-old organization, in the true sense of how the corporates would run, you will have that inefficiency, or you will have still the business scale and size to name the companies right now, but there are many Indian companies which is a very large scale and size outside India, and they are as good as any other company.
Absolutely.
So I think you have to look at it in that context. And at least one company where I have worked, where I was part of the international business, they have phenomenal international business at this point in time, which we started long back in 2008, 6 to 8, when we started that business full-fledged. Now, if you look at it in 12-year time, they have done a phenomenal business in that. I mean, I don't know the percentage, but significant portion
Right.
of revenue comes from that, and there is significant portion of the valuation must be coming from that. So I think, and that's true for every company. You will go to Middle East, you'll find there are many local companies which are great in that country. You'll go to UK, you'll find many
Correct.
companies that are very great in that country. So there are
Right.
pockets of companies which are very great in a particular region or in a country. There are pockets of companies which are globally everywhere.
Hmm. So you're saying, maturity will happen as it will happen, and there is no need to really also rush on that road as far as the organization is doing well in the context of the business and the context of the country.
Yeah, I agree. I completely go by it.
Absolutely. Sure. Another dimension, Ashish, and most of the questions that I'm asking you today are around the notions that we have. And, one of the notions in HR also is that a general perception of it being a harbinger of hope. And especially in the context of the current times, a lot of that has been challenged, and organizations and HR functions have had to take some very difficult stance, in being able to even let go people and things like that. Now, I know you are a realist, right? And I mean, what's your view on this whole thing, Ashish, in terms of uh, really spreading hope as a mantra versus, uh, you know, telling the truth the way it is, dressing it down the way it is, the naked truth, as I call it. I mean, a lot of these things are difficult to digest and can upset the larger organization when times are difficult. So
So
what's your
I
sense on
think
that?
Gaurav, if you look at this crisis, the COVID-19, which the crisis which came in, this is the first crisis which has hit the global at this scale. So far, none of the any crisis, whether financial meltdown or any, I mean, the last crisis which impacted the whole world was World War II.
Right.
Okay. After World War II, this is the first time all countries across all population, all geographies are impacted equally. That was the last time, but the scale was very different, and the transportation of people, news, goods was not as frequent. Was I mean, as late as last 6 months. So there's a difference that this is the first time in the history of the business that out of 6.5 billion population, close to 5 billion population was at standstill, which means you were under
Right.
lockdown in some other form. Business was at halt. So the level playing field for everyone was the same. So in any other crisis, there was some country which was doing well, some country was not doing well, some business was doing well, the green shoots will always be there in every crisis. Yeah, people were
Sure.
eating more, so Maggie was consumed more, and kind of thing. These are
Right.
one-off examples. But if you look at this, the information of the power of the current media and the social media, WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever you look at, the information and the gravity of the problem of COVID was equally known to everyone, whether it was the least educated or the highest educated.
Correct.
Everyone knew मास्क चाहिए, हाथ धोना है, नहीं तो मर जाओगे, और हो गया तो आपको कुछ ना कुछ हो जाएगा. So first of all, the basic principle of communication was that first of all you have to survive, you have to live tomorrow, to live first, to live
Right.
tomorrow. So take care of your health. We didn't have to do anything in our company because we did. So look, I think if you got to be open about it, and people, and wherever there is a layoff which has happened, uh, people understood that it's a temporary layoff. And if you look at, and in a context, if you look at, if anyone works for 35 years of their lifetime, a year of a blip here and there, you got to take it on your chin, because there's nothing anybody can do about it. I think more
Sure.
than organization, This time the understanding of people were always there. So anything which comes as rude shock, you can't take it. That's human behavior. And why to me? Why not to somebody else? I mean, I think this and if you look at many of the things, many of the decisions a lot of companies had taken, they've started to revert it back.
Right.
People are coming back to the job. People have started to join companies. Recruitment has started to happen. I think I think people also understood it. And I know in some companies people understood, and companies have also done a fair job in terms of treating them. I know companies gave a lot of said, okay, even if we are not able to take you, we will give you mediclaim or health benefits for next 1 year, so that anything happens, we'll
Yeah.
take care of it. So I think that's the way I look
The
at it.
response has been fairly human, and as far as it is human and real,
Yeah.
people absorb it. If the crisis is known, you're saying. Yeah.
If crisis was known to everyone, if the whole world, if no business happens, people know that there will be no money left.
Sure. Sure. Great, Ashish. My last question to you is if you have any message for the HR community uh, in the context of the current time and the road ahead.
My comments are normally very radical, so I normally so actually
That's
whether current time not radical, but say look, as I go back to the basic principle of thing, there are two things one has to just look at things.
right.
With the HR function, there is a lot of responsibility comes in. Okay, and I'll give an example, whether you like it, whether we like it or we don't like it.
Right.
In anywhere in the world, cops are most disliked people in the world. Okay, but the first point of crisis are the cops, irrespective of corruption level, their hygiene level, in terms of the way the place looks, etc., etc. Anything happens, the first thing which comes to our mind in India is that let's dial 100.
Right.
Okay, and it's not a right. I'm just trying to build a parallel to that. In a
Correct.
company, if any crisis happens in the employee mind, good or bad, the first point of contact is either manager or the HR.
Correct.
Okay, so how do you build a department or yourself which is full of empathy, not sympathy, empathy, and build a department which is a trust? There are two elements of empathy and trust. If you have as a quality in you and in your department, and especially for the team leads and these HROs, and that's what I keep advising everyone. If two things you are able to build, everything else will follow, because I'm true believer that as a human resource professional or the HR professional or the business leader, we will create processes which will serve business. That is given. You will have best technology to operate. You will have all those five things to work.
Right.
But what is the additional alpha factor will you bring? If you're able to
Right.
bring in those two alpha factors, if you're able to empathize with people, and if you're able to build trust, you're the first point of contact. And that's what is the differentiating factor. And that's where the culture gets built in.
Cool. Well, I think very well rounded, Ashish. Thank you so much
Welcome,
for
Gaurav.
sharing your perspectives. And the best thing I like about speaking with you every time I speak with you is that, the honesty and the directness with which you address issues. And I think that is something that there's always to take away with. So thank you so much,
I don't.
Ashish.
I fortunately, I don't know any other way. So
Thank you. Thank you.
most welcome. Thanks. Always pleasure speaking to you, Gaurav. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.